what's up, you guys? My name is Grace Lauren Wong, and you are listening to episode 87 of the Trauma Dump Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Here at the Trauma Dump Podcast, we seek to answer the question, what is mental health? How do I take care of my own, and how do I support others? And today's guest is someone that embodies resilience, courage, and compassion. We're going to be talking about C-PTSD with our special guest of the week, Lawrence, who is a 19-year-old youth empowerment speaker who helps teens and young adults build self-love, resilience, and a positive outlook on life. Drawing from personal experiences with childhood abuse, autism, and C-PTSD, Lawrence has spent the past 4 years not only healing, but also helping others do the same. In this episode, we're going to be talking about emotional regulation, healing from trauma, and what it really takes to reclaim your life at a young age. And even if you are not a young person watching this episode of the podcast, it is always possible to heal from trauma. Some updates about me this week. I have been going to several doctor's appointments because now I have health insurance and it's great. Highly recommend getting married just for the health insurance. I'm kidding, but also not. I have been wanting to go to a doctor for a very long time, specifically a neurologist, and now I'm able to. And it is so exciting. Part of my healing journey is actually being able to recognize what is wrong and then take the steps to recover from it. And a big part of that is getting help, going to therapy, getting a psychiatrist, getting a neurologist, and getting a plan. That's been what's going on in my life, and I'm really excited. But you guys should make sure to go check out Lawrence after the episode and show him some support. I'll have all of his resources in our descriptions along with his website, a link to his book, because yes, he wrote a book at 19. Isn't that crazy? We're so proud of him. And all of his social media will be linked below. And hey, if you'd like to share on the show, please message us in our Discord and the podcast participants channel along with your unique experiences, and we will match you to the right episode. And just a quick disclaimer before we start. I am not a licensed health professional. This podcast only seeks to create community and further understanding of these difficult topics that are so often overlooked and extremely misunderstood. If you or a loved one are in need of medical professional help, we have so many different free resources in our descriptions. The topics discussed here are for a mature audience, okay? Mature. So, viewer discretion is advised. And if you want to support our podcast and you see these little thingies right here, graceletsbygrace.myshopify.com. That's my website where I make handmade crystal beaded jewelry. I have this choker right here. It's beautiful. I made it for those listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It is a 16-inch choker that has aventurine, yellow jade. It has some agate, amethyst, jasper, and aquamarine and rose quartz. I made this. It is beautiful. It's available now on the website. There's only one of one, so once you get it, it is for you, and it's gone for everybody else. I only make one of ones, so please go check out my website. It is graceletsbygrace.myshopify.com. And if you'd like to support the podcast, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing episodes. We post new episodes every week on Sunday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. So don't forget to rate the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. All right, let's get into this episode. Hi, Lawrence. Welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So today we're going to be talking about C-PTSD, and I have C-PTSD as well. I got diagnosed several times throughout my life, more recently in 2021. And for those that don't know, C-PTSD stands for Complex Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. It is a real diagnosis, and a lot of people suffer with it undiagnosed. So today we're going to be talking to Lawrence. I'm really excited about it. Before we start the interview, Lawrence, what are your pronouns?
Him.
Awesome. Are you comfortable with discussing your personal experiences?
Yes, it's what I built a career out of.
Amazing. To make sure that I'm not crossing any of your boundaries and respecting your experiences, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. We can also take a break, and if you don't feel like answering a question, just let me know. I'll skip it. I promise I'm not going to get offended because my priority is to make sure that you feel safe and comfortable at all times.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Can you introduce yourself in your own words, and what do you want the people to know about who you are?
Well, introducing myself, that's a really unique, my own mind takes that in a really unique way because from a professional standpoint, my name's Lawrence and I'm a youth empowerment speaker. For the last 4 years, I specialize in helping teenagers and young adults build self-love, confidence, and a positive outlook on life, which are all things that I didn't have for a long time. But on a personal level, I'm just Lawrence. I like helping people, I like fishing, and I like journaling.
Awesome. So, fishing. Tell me a little bit more about fishing because I've gone fishing with my dad and my brothers several times. I always found fishing boring. What do you like about fishing?
As strange as it may sound, the best part of fishing is simply being there. So you're looking out at this lake, and there's no music, there's nobody talking, nothing's happening. It's just you and your thoughts. And it gives you a moment to slow down. It gives you a moment to be present. And it reminds you that on your first cast, you might not catch anything. On your 10th, you might not. But if you just keep showing up and you stay patient and you keep working towards your goals, you're going to get something.
Isn't that kind of like an analogy for life in general as well?
Yes, there's so many analogies you can make about fishing in life. There's the fact that you can be doing everything right. You can have the perfect setup. Everything is perfect, but you're just doing it in the wrong spot. You might be really talented and dedicated and hardworking, but the place you are physically right now doesn't allow you to demonstrate your gifts. If you are in, if you're an artist, like you make really good paintings, but your friends and family are always telling you that they don't like it, maybe what you need to do is show it to somebody else. Maybe the people who are meant to be your people and the people that are good for you just aren't there right now. So it doesn't mean there's anything wrong for you. It doesn't mean you need to change who you are. It just means you need to do what you're already doing in a different place.
I really like that. I really like that analogy because it is very true. I make jewelry. I call them bracelets, and I do markets. And when I first started doing markets, it was really challenging because I was like, I don't think, I've found my demographic yet. I would have people come up to my stuff and be like, oh my gosh, this is so overpriced. And I'm looking at them like, well, maybe that's because you're used to getting a $3 bracelet on Temu that's probably plastic, that isn't real crystal.
Yes,
And then I would have customers come up and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is the cheapest like well-made bracelet I've ever seen. Can I have 20 of them?" And they'll buy 20 of them. And it was really interesting to have so many different demographics come up to my stand and have such different interactions with me over my jewelry. Some of them were like, "Oh, I love it, but it's out of my price range." Some of them were like, "Oh my gosh, I love it. Let me buy so many. I love what you make." It's finding your people, like you were saying, it's finding your demographic. Sometimes it takes a while to find the people that appreciate you the most.
yeah, and you don't need every single person to appreciate you. I'll put it like this. If only 1% of people like you, that's 80 million people. Out of the entire world, if only 1% likes you, that's 80 million. you're not going to meet 80 million people in your life. You're probably going to, well, I live in a major city. I live in Philadelphia. We've got 2 million people here. So I meet a lot of people. But most of them are just strangers who I pass and they pass me and we don't ever actually meet. And we often, especially for teenagers, I find this is the case. We spend a lot of time worried about what other people think of us. We spend a lot of time worried about what our classmates think of us and what strangers on the internet think of us and what somebody's going to say about our post. But you need to think more about what do you think of you? Because for better or worse, you're the person you will spend the most time around ever. It's not going to be your family, it's not going to be your friends, it's not even going to be your mom. You are with you from the very moment you are born until the very moment you die. So, your opinion of yourself and your self worth is one of the most critical things in your life.
And there's so much wisdom in that. I believe RuPaul says it best, if you don't love yourself, how are you going to love anybody else?
Yeah.
And there's so much wisdom in saying that you're the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You do have to like yourself, or at least figure out what is, not wrong, but what is not working, and how can I rectify that issue. And let's like segue this into post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, in your email to me, which was so beautifully put, and I was really excited to immediately work with you. I was like, oh, let's go. I'm excited. You mentioned childhood abuse and autism and C-PTSD as parts of your story. When did you first realize that something wasn't right emotionally or mentally?
Well, there were multiple ways. The first one came in how growing up, I never exactly fit in anywhere. It was, I was always either too much, or I was too little, or I was not enough, or something. And one big way that stood out was I'm very different from all of my family members. When they wanted to go watch sports, I wanted to go watch National Geographic. When they wanted to go party, I wanted to go read a book. And the same thing happened with my classmates. And I could never figure out what it was. Like, I can't find anybody I relate to. I'm always getting bullied. I don't know what's going on. Then, when I was, I believe, 11 years old, I had a summer camp counselor who respectfully told my mom that he's probably autistic. And they were saying this as somebody who like recognized the signs. They didn't mean it in an offensive way. And the thing that caused them to say that was for one, I always walk on my toes. I We made a bridge out of plastic straws, and where everybody else was just knocking it down and just like throwing the straws in the trash, which is what children would do. I took the bridge apart in sections and organized them by what goes where so I could rebuild it when I got home. Then flash forward to the age of 13 years old, and my dad was at this point, he wasn't ever physically abusive to me and my siblings. It was just like really mean verbal comments. Like I was never tough enough or I need to man up or things like that. But this time he punches me in my left eye and it leads down to this spiral of having a really hard time trusting anyone. Because it's easy for us to, if you're in a toxic relationship, that can be pretty isolated towards how you view things romantically. But when it's a parent, when it's somebody you like live with, you trust, you are always in close proximity with, it leads to you not being able to trust anybody. Because if your own parent can do that, anybody can. But in all of that, in having trouble socializing with people, in having issues trusting anyone in believing that I could never be enough, I started seeing the writing on the wall that this can't be normal. Like, yeah, it is normal to get upset. It's normal to feel sad sometimes, but to this extent cannot be normal. Thankfully, my mom got me and my siblings into therapy, and I was able to start understanding myself more. I was able to get into journaling and meditation and a lot of things that got me through those hard times. And that's when I was initially diagnosed with C-PTSD. And my therapist had told my mom, yeah, he had every symptom, like all of them. So through all of that, that's where I began to find, it's so cheesy to say, but that's where I found my purpose, to realize that because I know I'm not the only one, and most people never get the help that they need because a lot of people grow up in environments where therapy is stigmatized. They grow up not having financial access to therapy. They grow up not knowing therapy is even an option in the first place. That can lead a lot of people to hurting themselves. And I just want to do my part to help those who feel helpless.
I think that's a beautiful thing that you're doing. You're transmuting your pain into purpose, which, is the whole purpose of why I have this podcast is transmuting my pain into purpose and giving other people a platform to talk about what they do. And you're only 19, yeah?
Yeah.
You're an incredibly wise and very articulate, empathetic young man. And I'm really impressed by you, truly, really impressed by you. Um, Being a advocate for other people, especially when you haven't had the easiest time in life, is incredibly challenging, but it's really rewarding. Um, Especially since you have put yourself on this trajectory. I want to know, what does CPTSD look like in real life for you, especially also for young people?
Yeah. So I'll describe it both in how it was when it was at its worst and how it is now. So at its worst, the way I can describe it is, imagine you're taking a shower made out of molten lead and you don't have skin. So every time you have like a traumatic thought or a memory or an emotion or a trigger, it burns into you. And it just burns hotter and hotter so you don't get used to it. And then there's other times where you feel absolutely nothing. The term for it is dorsal vagal collapse. It's when you feel nothing at all because your mind and body is in such a state of hyperarousal that it shuts down. It's like you're walking through life wearing a VR headset and you're in your body, but mentally you're not. You're looking at the world as if it's a movie and you're a camera. That's how it was at its worst. It's it like burns into you. And it doesn't even need to be anything really specific that triggers it. It could be the most minor things. It could be as small as a color. It could be as small as a sound. It could be as small as a word. There's so many micro triggers that you have to work through and learn to heal in order to function. Whereas how it is for me now is intense emotions. Like I've learned how to regulate it over years, but it's still intense emotions. Like when I get happy, I get really happy. When I'm sad, I get like really sad. but I've learned how to catch it before it starts spiraling down or before it starts spiraling up too fast. There's other times when I will overthink someone, I will overthink someone getting mad at me for saying no to something, but then I remind myself, Lawrence, you're allowed to say no to people. They're not going to hurt you. So it's about being aware and learning how to manage your stress and manage your emotions because regardless of if you yourself deal with C-PTSD or autism or any of that, you have an emotional limit. There's a limit where you can't tolerate anything above that. And you have to learn how to give yourself the freedom to validate your own emotions.
That's a very interesting way to describe CPTSD, and I really appreciate it. Um, I I resonate with kind of living your life like you're in a movie or like you're walking through life and everything feels numb to the point where you kind of disassociate. That is
Yeah.
something that I really experienced, especially when my trauma was at its highest. And I think a really um, interesting part about complex post-traumatic stress disorder is the compound traumas. It's not just one event, it's multiple events happening in succession or one right after the other. Uh, it's incredibly isolating as well because a lot of people don't understand how to support another person who has CPTSD, or when they witness someone having a big reaction, they don't know what to do. And I want to talk about emotional regulation because that was something that you brought up. What does that term mean to you, and why is it such a game changer for trauma survivors?
So often what happens with trauma is, especially when it's like something big, you can mentally go back there. So physically, you can be sitting in your office chair, you can be at work, you can be driving your car. That's where you physically are. But when that trauma comes up mentally, now you're that little kid again. Now you're back at that moment. Now you're back in that traumatic experience. And you feel the emotions of back then. You hear things, you can feel physical sensations. And your emotions then fuel that. So you get wrapped up in it and it just you get stuck there. And you need to learn how to catch the emotion and notice what you're about to feel and redirect your mind, redirect those emotions, redirect what's going on. And a way that I often do that is journaling. Everywhere I go, I carry a little notepad on me so that if something makes me feel really stressed or upset or any emotion where I feel like I'm about to start spiraling about it, I just go in my pocket, get that notepad out, and I scribble down how I'm feeling. I scribble down what's going on, what triggered me, what's causing me to feel this. And it allows you to get it out of your head because those emotions, they're going to be present either way. You just have to channel them into something because they need to go somewhere. That anger and frustration and sadness, it needs to go somewhere. So when you notice that it's starting to go back to that traumatic moment, you have to find a way to redirect it in a healthy way. Some people, that means you go to the gym or you run laps around the block or you dance around your bedroom or you paint or make music or do art. You just had to find a way to let the emotions out without letting them consume you.
I think that's very letting don't let them consume you. That's a very, very good point. I want to segue into something that has been affecting me recently. As someone who's diagnosed with CPTSD, one of my biggest triggers is other people, like the way that other people treat me. If I'm ever treated like I'm dumb or like I'm ignorant of something, or if I'm ever put down in any way, sort, like if someone says or does something that makes me feel, whether it's intentionally or not, that I'm stupid, or if they are dismissing of my feelings, I get very triggered. And it's something that I've noticed within myself in a way that I have started to regulate myself is to openly ask the other person, did you intend to do that? Did you
Yeah.
intend to make me feel this way? Because no one can actually make you feel a certain thing. They can do things
Mhm.
that can cause a chain reaction that leads to you feeling something, but no one can magically, you are now sleepy, you are now angry, you are now upset. That's not how that works. You can be triggered by other people's emotions hormonally. Like if someone is really stressed, you can start to, your adrenal glands will start to create cortisol. That is a real thing. But no one can make you feel a certain way. And so I've had to also catch myself and say, did you intend to cause me to feel upset about this? Are you trying to imply something about what I'm saying to you? And I had an argument with someone who I no longer consider a friend anymore because I noticed a lot of manipulative tactics that they used to,
Mm.
how shall I put this? They used to insinuate that I was uh, doing stuff to portray them as dumb when they were making very stupid decisions. And we had an argument in my house, and I didn't start the argument. And this person yelled at me, and I turned around and I laughed, and I was like, why are you raising your voice at me right now? Are you intending to, start something with me
Mm.
in my own house? Are you trying to, you know, get a rise out of me? Because I noticed something growing up is that my mom, whenever she would try to upset me or win an argument, she would get really angry and really elevated. And then I would match her energy. And then she would quickly de escalate and be like, see, now you're the problem. See, you're
Yeah, that's
reacting this way. And so I noticed that that person was trying to do that tactic. And I laughed because laughter is a way for me to like physically de
mm.
escalate. If I do the opposite of how I'm feeling, I de escalate. That's a way that I like regulate myself. And this person got offended. Are you laughing at me? Like, no, I'm laughing at the situation because you're yelling at me in my house for no reason. And this person said, I'm not yelling. And I said, do I need to record your volume right now? Because you are yelling at me in my house. And I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate being yelled at in my house. If we need to have this conversation in a different space, not my safe space, this is my safe space, we can have this conversation in another place. And it got to the point where I decided for my own mental well being that this person kept triggering me. Therefore, I could not interact with this person because every time I tried to interact with this person, they were trying to elevate me. They were trying to get me to be reactive. And I thought, that's just not healthy. It's not healthy for my nervous system to be constantly elevated over simply nothing. And I started to logically think, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel so um angry around this person? And it's because my input didn't matter to them. They never took my input into consideration, and they constantly came to me to complain
Yeah.
about things that were in their control. Number one, there were things in their control, and they could change the situation about it. And instead, they let that anger, resentment, rage consume them instead of finding a solution. And I didn't want to fall into that pattern because when I was younger, that was a pattern that I fell into, was just letting that resentment consume me. And I think that's why regulation, especially for me, um, has helped me tremendously to not, one, re-traumatize myself and to not traumatize other people. Because going through abuse can make you an abusive person because it
Yeah.
normalizes it.
You mentioned so many fantastic things there. Like, for one, this person trying to get you into a certain emotional state. It's great that you recognize that pattern because obviously I don't know the person. I only know the last like 2 or 3 minutes of you explaining them. But the pattern of people trying to elevate your emotions, like they get you really mad, they get you sad, and then they pull the, see, I'm calm, you're the one yelling, you're crazy. That is a very common thing that people who are deliberately, yeah, my office has automatic lights. Don't worry about that. Um, People who are emotionally manipulative and actively trying to make you doubt yourself, that is something that they will deliberately do. And in recognizing your own emotional needs and having boundaries like that, that is something that helps. It helps keep people who aren't good for you away because once you call them out on something, they start to, they're not used to people being able to recognize what they're actually doing. So once they're called out on it, they start to panic and say, no, that's not what I meant. I meant this whole different thing, but then you replay the facts and it doesn't add up. Like saying, I'm not yelling at you when they're obviously yelling. There's a difference between someone talks loudly, someone's projecting their voice, and someone's actually yelling. You know when a person's actually yelling. And trying to, in my own experience, I've had relationships where people tried to pull that. And then I just called out and I'm like, did you mean this? Or am I interpreting that you meant that? That level of emotional understanding. Not only I want to commend you on how mature that is, because very few people can do it, especially in the moment, but also having that ability to differentiate between your perception of a situation and the reality of a situation is something that everyone can benefit from. Because when we let our emotions paint the picture, we'll see whatever we feel. We feel like this person is out to harm us, so we see that. And when we understand how we feel, but we don't let the way we feel determine how we approach a situation, that's very, very useful.
It is very useful in a number of ways because if you can recognize when someone is either being intentionally or unintentionally manipulative, and you can call them out on it, there's a number of ways that that interaction can go. They can recognize and be like, okay, Am I being intentionally manipulative? No. Then how can I change the way that I'm interacting with this person so we can better our relationship? And it's little things that happen. I went to the doctor yesterday with my husband, and we had to go get our blood drawn. And I am a hard stick. I have been to countless doctors since I can remember. And I have very tiny veins. You can't even see them.
Yeah.
And my husband has giant veins because he's a plumber and he's not a hard stick. And we had to get our blood drawn, had to get 8 tubes of blood drawn. And I hate it every time because I have severe hypothyroidism, which is when your thyroid gland doesn't work properly. And so to put me on new medication, they have to draw your blood and they have to test a bunch of different factors. And so when I went up to the phlebotomist, I was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I am a hard stick and I do need a butterfly needle, which is true. These are all true statements. And then she was like, well, people tell me all the time that they need butterfly needles, but they don't actually need butterfly needles. And I was listening to her. I was taking in what she was saying. And also, my husband chimed up. He's like, well, she does need a butterfly needle. She has very small veins. I understand that they only give you like a small number of butterfly needles, and you usually only want to use them for elderly patients, but she does need them. And I can show you on her arm of where her veins have blown from big needles. And the phlebotomist was like, well, you're making me doubt myself. And I said, ma'am, that's not my intention to make you doubt anything. I'm just trying to take care of myself. And she was like, well, if I know that I can find your vein. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna trust you because
Yeah.
this is a very hard thing for me to do just in general. It's like, I'm gonna trust you. I'm just telling you my prior experience. I'm gonna trust you. And she did find a vein. It took a while. It did take her a while to find a vein, but she did. And it took a very long time for the blood to come out, which was also pretty traumatizing. And I started to faint. Like the color left my face, neck, everything. And my husband was holding me up in a chair because you have to be seated. And she was like, "Well, if I would have known that you fainted, you should have told me that you're more likely to faint." And I was thinking to myself, I was like, "Well, I told you I was a hard stick. And I told you that like my veins blow all the time. That should be something that you as a phlebotomist already knows, but I didn't say that." And she's like, "Okay, we're gonna sit you back up. We're gonna lay you down." She did everything that she could. She brought a fan. She put ice packs on my chest and on the back of my neck. She made sure that I was well taken care of, and she got all the blood out in one go. And she's like, next time when you come next week, we'll have a plan. I'll know which arm to take it
Mm.
from. Like, we're gonna know what to do. She's like, but you gotta trust me. And I was like, oh, I know. But also, prior experiences makes you not want to trust this certain person. And she's like, well, next time we'll have a plan and you won't budge. But she stuck me, you can tell, like 2 times, doot, doot, right there. And it's starting to bruise, which is okay. But it's it's one thing to, trust someone blindly, and it's another thing to advocate for yourself. And
Yeah.
I never intended to make her doubt herself or feel a certain way. And
Yeah.
also, you still got to advocate for yourself. I did need that butterfly needle. She was like, you do have very tiny veins. It is quite alarming how small your veins are. So, yes. And she's like,
Yeah.
and
Something.
they're deep. Yep.
Yeah. Something you just brought up was how, and again, with how our feelings color a situation. So you were simply saying that you have medically very small veins. It's simply the facts. The facts of the matter are you have small veins, you need a butterfly needle because you need a lot of blood taken out, and normal needles don't work for you. Her feeling was that you were trying to challenge her degree in medicine and trying to say that you know more than a doctor, when the reality was you know more about yourself than she knows about you because you have lived your life. But because her feeling colored the situation, she perceived someone challenging her intelligence when the reality is you know more about you than she knows about you. However, after the feelings faded from the situation, she saw that, oh no, they weren't challenging me. They were simply saying what they know about themselves, which is when she brought out the ice packs and laid you down and clarified, okay, we're going to have a plan. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And it wasn't that she had ill intent or you had ill intent. She felt like you had ill intent. And unfortunately, most of the time, these situations, we only realize this after the damage has been done. And we realize, oh, my partner wasn't cheating on me. They literally have a cousin named Sarah. But I perceived that Sarah was a cover name for their affair. But actually, they were loyal that entire time. But, I've already broken up with them and we've done damage and I can't really go back to that. Or that you perceive that someone is being mean to you when in reality they were simply telling you the truth. Or you perceive that a job won't hire you, or you'll never get into college, or you'll never be financially free when you're actually just running off of how you felt when you were a kid.
I think it's incredibly important, especially for people with trauma, with negative experiences, to try and take longer to understand something, take longer to process something, pause, reflect before you take action.
Yeah.
Um, because your trauma, especially with post-traumatic stress disorder, is going to impact the way that you view any situation, any and all situations from here on out. It's going to impact it. Even as you start to heal, even as you start to create coping mechanisms, it's still going to be there. The trauma doesn't go away, it just becomes less prevalent. It's less in the forefront. If you think about you're making something on Canva or on like Microsoft Paint, whatever, and you have different brush strokes. Like, say you're painting with blue and you have an accident and you dip your brush in red and you have one stroke of red. The next time you're like, oh, I gotta cover that with blue, it's gonna turn purple. You can keep adding that paint on top of it, but the red is still gonna be there.
Yes.
You can't just get rid of the red. It's still gonna be there. You can still make that painting beautiful and adapt that painting to what you want it to become, but it's still going to exist. And that's why I think it's really important that once people recognize that they do have trauma, start to recognize certain patterns, that they ask more questions.
Yes. Because especially especially when it comes to relationships, because you wouldn't, on the surface, you wouldn't necessarily assume that issues you had directly with your parents would impact your love life. They're very two different things on the surface, but actually, they're very closely tied together. Because if you had a bad relationship with one of your parents, like let's say with your father or with your mother, that subconsciously, even though you know it's bad for you, it's familiar. This is what your brain sees as normal. You know it's not normal, but your brain doesn't think that way. So until you become aware of what you may have gone through with your parents, Somehow, some way, most of the time, you will end up dating somebody who is exactly like that parent. You'll date somebody who is emotionally distant, or somebody who is harmful or verbally or physically abusive towards you, or they neglect your needs. And then you look over time and you're like, wait, there is a pattern of this happening. Like every single person in the world isn't bad. But if a lot of the ones that we date are, we need to figure out, well, what's making me pick these people? Like of all the people I could pick from, why am I consistently picking these ones? It goes back to what you experienced growing up. Or maybe you grew up in a really good household. Like you grew up in a fantastic household. Um, Mom was a nurse, dad was a doctor. Uh, Everybody was happy, needs were met, there was food, there was love, everything was great. But somehow you still end up dating people who are really bad for you. Maybe it could be the kind of music you listen to, it could be the kind of shows you watch, it could be what people tell you is cool, it could be, there's so many ways, but the only way you truly understand it is when you get honest with yourself and look at it. Then you have to be able to advocate not only for your needs, but also letting people know that even though it's important for you to ask more questions and to try and understand other people, your emotions and your feelings are still valid. Because in my own experience, I found that as I became more emotionally aware and more emotionally mature, I understood that a lot of people don't know why they do what they do. They genuinely don't know why they act how they act towards you, or how why they talk a certain way towards you, or they themselves genuinely don't know. And you can find yourself making excuses for people where you think that no, it's okay because they don't know that they're hurting me. They don't know. And yeah, they might not, but that doesn't excuse their behavior. You can just directly tell people that what you're saying and doing is upsetting me. What you're saying and doing is hurting me. I know that might not be your intention, but now you know. So because now you know, if you do it again, I have to leave this relationship for my own well-being. And that's easier said than done, but it's worth doing.
What were some of the most effective emotional regulation tools or practices that you discovered in your healing journey other than journaling?
Other than journaling, some form of exercise. So let's say you're really angry, instead of punching a wall, go to a boxing gym. Go lift some weights. Go do some push-ups. Go run around your block. Go swim. Get that anger and that frustration and whatever emotion you're going through out of you. If you're in an area that is safe enough to do this, go for a 5 minute walk outside on a sunny day. Just look at the sky and go, yeah, I might be really upset, but at least the sky looks really nice. The birds are chirping. There's trees. There's grass. People are enjoying their day. You find ways to be grateful for the littlest thing. Like, I have all 10 fingers. I have both my legs. I'm not blind. I have my sense of taste. Imagine how boring life would be if you couldn't taste food. Like, everyone's enjoying their food, but everything doesn't taste like anything to you. Your life would be really boring if you couldn't taste food. I have food in the refrigerator. There's water in the sink. My lights are not cut off. You have to find ways to be grateful for simple things because it's really easy for us to spiral down into all the things we don't have, into not having a good relationship, into not having friends and family, into not having a car or the best shoes or the best clothes. It's really easy for us to spiral down into all the things that we don't have, but we need to remind ourselves of the things we do have. We need to remind ourselves that life might be challenging, but at least I have this. At least I have a pillow. At least I have the ability to talk. At least I have a functioning brain and I'm able to be myself. At least I'm not living in a war zone. At least I'm able to walk down the street safely. So exercise, get those emotions out of you, get some fresh air, and find things to be grateful for, because you will find them.
I think that's very beautifully put. Finding things to be uh, grateful for has really helped me in my mental health journey as well. Um, my my whole life has been very rewarding and also very difficult. And I think it's very important to recognize what you have because it could so easily be taken away as well. Um, when we are appreciative for what we have, when we're good stewards of what we have, like making sure that your room is clean, that you're taking care of the things that are yours. If you have animals, taking them for a walk, treasuring them, getting them a treat or a toy, something that makes another being outside of yourself happy has also helped me as well. I have two dogs and two cats, and my cat Loki and my dog Mochi are cuddling right now. It's very cute. I'm gonna take a picture because they're so cute. I'm gonna show you. Let's see. Dude, there they are. They're all cuddling. It's so
I
sweet.
want the first time I've seen dogs and cats be nice to each other.
They love each other. Loki is the cat, Mochi is the dog, like with her paw by him, and then there's my Gigi. Um, they love each other very much. Let me get my camera to work again. 1 second. Camera. Hello. They love each other. They were all raised together, and I think it is also a testament to lots of animals that, don't understand or don't get raised together, may not understand how to interact with each other, but when you raise them together, they'll figure out each other and they'll figure out each other's boundaries. Um, it's really interesting that you pointed out when you were so young that you recognized something was wrong, you recognized your boundaries were crossed, but you didn't know how to advocate for yourself. Um,
Yeah.
what would you say to someone who's really young and is listening to the podcast and knows that some of their boundaries are being crossed, but they don't know how to advocate for themselves in a safe and healthy manner?
Well, obviously this is going to be different depending on the boundary, because there are certain things that are, minor issues between you and a friend. Like you're having trouble telling them that you don't like when they make a certain joke. Then there's other boundaries like your personal privacy, your physical well-being. So when it comes to simple things like your friends make jokes about you that you don't like, but it's hard for you to stand up for yourself and tell them that you don't like them saying that because you don't want them to stop being your friend. It's easier said than done, but ease into it. So starting off with, I don't appreciate when you make that joke about me, please stop. That's a respectful and clear way to say it. It's hard to do the first time, but as you do it more and more, it gets comfortable, it gets easier. Then, if people, after letting them know your boundary, if they still continue to disrespect it, you're able to get new friends. You're able to get a new boyfriend or girlfriend. You're able to get new people to hang out with. There's 8 billion people in the world, and a very large percentage of them speak fluent English. So it's not like there aren't people out there that you can be friends with. Unless you live in a town with only 100 people, you can find plenty of people to be your friend. Not overnight, maybe not easily, but it's possible. So I would say to them that it seems scary. Like it seems scary to stand out for yourself. It seems difficult. It seems challenging. But as you do it more, it gets easier. The first few times, it definitely is hard. Like it, I'm going to tell you the truth. It is hard to do, but as you do it more, it becomes easier.
You speak often about, taking care of yourself, self-love, resilience. How did you rebuild your sense of self after trauma?
Well, the very first thing is when it really hit me, I was 15 and I was looking at my bathroom mirror, just asking myself how I ended up at that point. Because when I was, for context, my mom and dad are completely separate and they had been for years at this point. But I was looking in my bathroom mirror at my mom's house and I just asked myself, how did I get to this point? Like this paranoid, my skin was breaking out. I could hardly sleep. Like, how did I get here? And then all those emotions hit me like a truck. Remembering everything I went through from like birth up until then, remembering like every experience just all at once. And something that I've also noticed with, other young men who have gone through things like I did, whether we know it or not, we start to build our sense of identity off of the concept of making our dad proud or proving our dad wrong. It's one of those two. And if you try to make him proud, you'll end up just like him. Which, if you have a good father, you have a good relationship with your father, that probably is a good idea. If your dad was hardworking, he was a good man, he was respectful, be like that. But in my case, I didn't want to be like that. So I had to figure out, well, what do I not want to be? What's the impact I want to have on people? Like, who do I want to be remembered as? And that's when I began to find myself again, when I began to allow that little kid in me to come back, to allow myself to be the silly little kid I used to be. And then working through all those emotions, learning to feel safe again. Journaling also helped with that. It helped with understanding as as big of a question as this is, the question of who am I? Like without the world's opinion of me, without how I look, without my name, without all of this stuff, who am I? And I believe at some point or another, everyone has to ask themselves that question. Like when I look in the mirror, who is that? So the way I built myself back up was in figuring out what impact do I want to have on the world. A lot of journaling and meditation and times I had to just cry about it. Like there were plenty of times when the solution was I had to cry and let those emotions out. And ultimately being honest with myself about where I'd ended up because a lot of things were the result of what I went through. But I also had to take accountability for the decisions I made because, yes, things happened to me, but I decided to not let what happened to me define the rest of my life. I decided instead to turn all that pain into something that I can give back to the world. So I started making YouTube videos and TikToks and just putting information out there that can help people. And in that process, I learned how to ironically forgive, like to realize that more than likely, he didn't even know why he did what he did. And I allowed myself to remove him and remove everyone associated with him from my life. And that's been the case for years. But I also had to understand that if you constantly walk around with anger and frustration and hatred and all of this darkness in your heart towards somebody, it's going to eat you up from the inside. It's so cliche that people say this, but it's the truth. In order to heal and move forward, you have to find some way to forgive those who hurt you. Not to forget, not to allow them in, but to free yourself from that hatred. Because in order to heal yourself, in order to rebuild your self worth and remind yourself that you are valuable, you have to let go of the anger.
What inspired you to help others, especially youth empowerment?
Well, there were many things. The main one was I knew that when I was younger, when I was 11, 12, 13, 14, I couldn't really find anyone my age who had been through what I've been through and was on the other side of it. Like they made something good out of their situation. So I decided I was going to be that for other people because, they're respect to these people, but there's people like Tony Robbins and Les Brown, and they're these kinds of speakers, and they've been through traumatic things. Most people don't know this, but Tony Robbins grew up in severe poverty, like no food, no water. It was severe poverty. But people don't know that about him. They see who he is today. They see he's doing these like $150,000 retreats, and they see that. But I wanted to show people the reality. I wanted to show people that you may be young, you may have a lot of things going against you, but if you have a dream and you allow yourself to go for it, you can turn whatever pain you went through into fuel. And another big part of why I decided to do that for people was I realized that every 45 seconds in the world, somebody dies due to suicide. So every year, that is hundreds of thousands of people. And about 40% of that are people below the age of 25. So my goal was not only to help inspire people and give them hope, but to keep them from getting to that point. It was to be the man that I wish I had grown up. It was to let people out there know that you don't have to, suffer in silence. There are people who care. The things you went through could really be the secret to somebody else's pain because we've all been through something. We've all had some sort of hardship. It could have been a bad breakup. It could have been getting cheated on. It could have been abuse. It could have been anything. We've all been through something. But I decided to take what I went through and use it to help others. And, look at where it's got me now.
So, what's next for you? Any upcoming work, projects, or messages you're especially passionate about sharing?
Well, this is a really big month for me. So we set this off call, but I recently began writing another book. It's not going to be out for a while. But in that book, I go over the details of what I went through, the mentality of how I was feeling in the moment, how I got out of it. But I mentally walk you through everything. And I write it from first person perspective. So it's not me looking back on it. You're reading it as I'm going through it. So in that thing, that's going to be fantastic. At the end of this month, I'm taking a flight to Detroit, Michigan to do a podcast episode. And this is like a huge podcast. They have a guest house for me to stay in. All my food is going to be covered. So that's something that younger Lawrence, he is jumping for joy at that because when I first started uploading YouTube videos and sitting in parks talking about my life, I would have never dreamt it would turn into all this. Uh, Another thing I'm really passionate about that's coming up is in I doubt anyone in my city is listening to this, even though I live in Philadelphia. But if you are, in September, I'm doing an in-person event where I'll be talking about limiting beliefs and how what we believe about ourselves set this invisible bar that we can't get past until we go inside and we learn how to remove those invisible bars that keeps us trapped in our current position. And the last thing is that I'm just excited to see what everyday has.
That's
It's
beautiful.
like yeah, you just took the words out of my mouth. I was gonna say it's beautiful to not only be able to help other people, not only is it beautiful to be able to help myself in the process, and it's beautiful to just be able to go outside and not be paranoid. Those simple things are what my younger self really wanted to be able to talk to people and not be paranoid, to be able to enjoy life.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you're able to enjoy life and that life is getting better. It is really a testament because a lot of times trauma makes us feel like life is never going to get better. It's only getting worse. Like it really impacts the way that we view our situation, our circumstances. And I don't know if you guys can hear, but they're sounding the flood alarm right now. They just installed a new flood alarm. I'm in Texas. I'm not where the floods happened on July 4th that killed hundreds of people, but I do live right by a giant lake. So, um, you know, even though it was very devastating, and I do have some of my husband's family members that unfortunately passed away from the floods. It's doing a lot of good to other areas here in Texas to upgrade our weather systems, our national weather alert systems as well. And so they're installing and testing. They sent out a message. They're installing and testing out the flood alarms to make sure that every area can hear them and that people can, get out safely. Um, Trauma is devastating in a lot of different ways, but it's also very informative. Um, your body can keep you safe because you've gone through trauma, and it can also help keep other people safe and heal a lot of other people. Something that um, my Mimi's, my grandmother, has told me since I was very little is the things that we go through are not just for us. If we let other people in, You have no idea how many lives you can impact for the better just
Yeah.
by sharing your experiences with another person. You can connect with so many people that you never thought you could because you have a shared experience. And you can help so many people heal just by you existing. And I want to know, Lawrence, where can people connect with you and support your work?
Well, all of my social media pages, so YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Lawrence C. Empowers. My website is lawrencechharris.com. That is mainly for if you're somebody who's like a podcast host, event planner, and you want to get in contact with me there. Or you can just contact me directly at my email address, lawrence@lawrencechharris.com. Um, and one thing I want to mention too about how what you've been through can impact so many people is we can think of something such as bread, as cheesy as this may, well, not cheesy, but simple as this may sound. Bread. You go and buy some bread. In order for you to have done that, somebody put it on the shelf. That means somebody had to ship it there. That means someone had to package it. That means somebody had to harvest it. Somebody had to water it. Somebody had to plant it. Somebody gave them the seed. So for you to enjoy just bread by itself took a long chain of people. And then you add lettuce and tomatoes and all these things. A sandwich is this combination of hundreds of people who have never met each other collaborating so that you can eat a sandwich. And something you might put on the internet about here's a free mental health resource. Here is uh, some positive affirmations. Here's a nice poem, or here's a cute painting. That can impact somebody who then goes on to impact somebody else, who then goes on to impact somebody else. And there's this long chain of people who benefit from what you do, but you think that all you're doing is making bread.
Mm-hmm. And that's very, very true. You have no idea how many lives that you impact for the better. And it's another big testament to those of us who are struggling with our mental health and don't want to be here anymore. Your life has meaning, and your life creates ripples throughout other people's lives. You have no idea that even you're walking on the street and someone smiles at you, you have no idea what they're going through and how that could help them in so many different ways. Like, for instance, I have met two of my best friends. They were working retail at craft stores, and they smiled at me. They wished me a good day, and I loved their energy. And I came back the next time, and like became really good friends with them. Like one of them became my bridesmaid at my wedding. And I met her at a store because she smiled at me and wished me a good day. And I wanted to hang out with her because I loved her energy. She was so sweet. Like you have no idea how many lives that you impact for the better and how many lives you can save by you just existing, by you just being you. Um, it's really imperative now more than ever when we live in a social media age to make real like relationships, make real connections with real people, reach out to someone and share an experience with them. It's important to live in the real world, even though, yes, this is a podcast, but this is a call to action, guys. Go outside and try to go make a friend. Try to talk to someone that is safe. Don't go up to a random person who's shanking somebody else and like, try to talk to them. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But
talk to people your age who are
mm-hmm,
safe looking.
mm-hmm. Try to make
Don't go down dark alleyways.
Exactly, for real. Like, try to make a friend with someone at a park or at a dog park. Take your dog to a dog park and go talk to someone. Say, I love your dog's name or something. And it helps. It really does. It's really important that we try to connect with other people and build community, especially in times that are so stressful and that want to capitalize on community. Make community in a free, safe, healthy way. Just talk to somebody. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for sharing with us and talking about your experiences. I am so inspired by you. I feel so empowered from this conversation and your willingness to share what you've gone through. I really appreciate it, and I'm so proud of you, really and truly. And I can't wait for your book to come out. Whenever it does, you gotta shoot me an email. I will promote the shit out of that, man. Let's go. That's so exciting.
I appreciate it. I enjoy being here. I enjoy, a big reason I love doing podcast interviews so much is when you talk about what you've been through out loud to somebody, you start to see it in a different perspective and you start to better understand yourself. So thank you for having me.